what better way to have a guy that's that intelligent, that motivated, that driven, and just be able to observe him every single day and be able to kind of just replicate some of the parts of his game that I could improve on my game. And it's just been an honest blessing for both of us to be in this position that we've been in.
23956. You can change your God.
All right. Welcome. Maize and Blue Review brought to you by Michigan Rivals as we get ready to get things underway on this Thursday. Thanks for being with us. We are here live weekdays at 1 o'clock talking about the latest in Michigan sports, and that has to do with the opener last week still, and we look ahead to this Saturday night when Michigan brings in Hawaii for a night game, yet another night game at the Big House. We will get into all of that. You heard right there at the top, Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy, and I want to give you a reminder. McCarthy was talking about his relationship with Cade McNamara. It was a good piece of audio there from the sophomore quarterback who will make his first official start for the Wolverines. All goes well on Saturday night. Yeah, talking about his relationship with McNamara. If you missed the JJ talk, yesterday's show, you can go back. You can always find that YouTube, podcast, wherever you find those. Talked all about JJ McCarthy and what to expect and what to look at for number 9 when he gets under center for the Wolverines. So after this show, if you're looking for some more shows, you're looking for some more McCarthy talk, that's something that really interests you, you can go back to yesterday and listen or watch that show. Kind of the same thing here. If you've been joining Michigan football today throughout the summer and now into the fall, you know that Thursdays we talk to the coach, the czar of the telestrator, Jim Scarcelli, the former Wolverine. Well, Scar joined us on Tuesday this week. So if you want to hear from Scarcelli, go back to Tuesday's show, and you'll be able to take everything in all of the insights that Scarcelli brought to the program back on Tuesday. So those are just a couple of reminders for you. We get into today. You might say, well, what are you talking about today if you're not going to talk about JJ? It's a good question. And we're going to talk about this non-conference schedule and the big-time blowouts. And does that equal big-time fun for you as a Michigan football fan? And if you're out there, you can answer that question by leaving a message. And we put those a lot of those messages and feedback up on the screen. Also, it's a big recruiting weekend. As recruiting weekends go, none bigger than a quarterback coming in from Charlotte, North Carolina, who will be in the Big House for the Michigan-Hawaii game. We will talk about Jaydn Davis, the signal caller there from North Carolina, and how things look for Michigan for the 5-star quarterback. But we will start talking about the Michigan defense and just how good it can be. It was pretty good. It looked pretty good. I would say you would have to, by all accounts, you would have to say that the Michigan defense looked good. They're on their way to a shutout, late touchdown there by the Rams, spoiled that. Michigan winning it 51-7, as you know. But you know the defense, just how good can it be? And you saw some of the different factors that I'd put up there, and I'll put some of that up there as we go. And this is going to be part of the theme of today, and it's really what is part of what do you want to call it, a narrative or the theme of this 2022 Michigan football team. Yeah, I would say the first 2 games, the tryout for the quarterback position to see who's going to be number 1. I would put that number 1, you know, in terms of interest and storylines and anything that you wanted to go. I mean, that's the story right now with Michigan football. What happened in game 1 between McNamara and McCarthy, and what's going to happen this Saturday night when McCarthy gets his first start. I mean, all eyes are focused in on that. The second part is people talking about Michigan's the easy non-conference schedule, and that's something that was talked about a lot in the offseason. We knew that it was going to be a focal point of the college football season this year, and here it is. It's even easier than we thought it was going to be this summer. So, what are you going to do about that? We'll get to those blowouts and the easy schedule coming up next, but it plays into this a lot when you talk about the Michigan defense. Now, the Michigan defense, there was a little bit of talk in fall camp. Harbaugh was asked specifically about, about the defense and if it could be better than last year. And he talked about it. Yeah, there's no stars. That's what I guess people were saying. There's no stars. Aiden Hutchinson, the number 2 pick overall, Ajabo would have been number 1 or it would have been in the first round. Dax Hill was. So replacing those 3 guys, I mean, where are the stars for the Wolverines? And, Harbaugh called it no stars, which was catchy and took on. And, people picked up on that. And what we saw in week 1 was that there are a lot of potential stars on this Michigan team. We are going to have to wait right along with everyone else until Michigan is going to play a team that has close to equal talent for them out on the field before we really get a true read. That's part, like, you can like it, you can not like it. I mean, there's ways there's a reason when you play a really easy schedule that people knock you because there's some truth to it. You're not battle tested. If you haven't been on the road, that's going to be another thing. People are like, they don't have to leave the state of Michigan for, you'll hear that about, you hear it annually, about different teams. People look at this is the easiest schedule. This team doesn't even leave their home state until October or November or whatever it is. So it's part of it. Michigan will, when they play Maryland, they will get tested in the air against the Terps with Tungo Vailoa. Michigan will then go on the road October 1st. That's a test when you go on the road in the conference. And even though Iowa's offense, which wasn't very good last year, and we talked about how it wasn't going to be very good this year, and then it wasn't very good in week 1, that's still going to be a test, a road test for Michigan, but it looks very doable. And then, you start talking about, they'll get tested via talent with Penn State. Penn State recruits really well. They got pretty good talent. So, that's nice that game's at the Big House. I would say the same thing, about you get into the rivalry games to Michigan State. That is a test. Whether you like to admit it or not, whether you want to give any credit to Michigan State, doesn't matter. What do you want to say? What you want to say, or what anybody has to say about Michigan State? It's a rivalry game, but as we all know, and so it's going to be a test. But it's also the Big House. This schedule for Michigan is you couldn't handpick, draw it up like it is. And one side you could say it's convenient. You can say easy. I think all of those things are true. Nice, whatever word you want to put on it. And then, the big test is going to be the finale down in Columbus. And, if we all harken back to our school days, isn't that the way you'd really want it to go? Hey, here's a couple easy first days, hey, let's just have, you're having fun. Have some fun out there with your classwork. Then you're going to get some quizzes. Iowa's going to be a quiz. Penn State's going to be a quiz. Michigan State, they're going to spring it on you. That's going to be and then the test, the final exam is going to be at the end. And that. So it sets up like a school year to me. But the thing for this defense was going to be, certainly they're going to have to replace the production of Hutchinson and Ajabo and Hill. You see all of the candidates. I could go down the roster. Very encouraging from what we saw from week 1. Doesn't mean everything. We know that, but we do. You can be encouraged by what you saw. And I am up to the point where you can be as encouraged as much as you can without going overboard because of the opponent. That's where I'm at with the defense. But just like last year when they went to Nebraska and Brad Hawkins came up, I mean, the defense gave up nearly 30, gave up 29 points in the second half. I mean, they got worked over a little bit by the Huskers. It was good that the offense kept scoring and scoring and scoring, But even so, the defense at the end of that game, they had to come up with a big play. They had to have a playmaker. And it was Brad Hawkins, who was a super senior that was able to come in and make the play. That was huge. So we don't know yet who the playmakers are going to be on that defense, but we've got a lot of candidates. We knew through the whole offseason who the candidates were, and then we got to look at them in the spring game, and then we got to look at them on Saturday. And if you wanted to say, hey, DJ Turner could be one of those playmakers. You saw him, have the scoop and score on Saturday. You could say Rod Moore, pictured on the screen. He could be a playmaker. He was in the right spot, had the pick, took it down inside the 10-yard line. He could be the playmaker. Those are two DBs right there. Then you can just start, clicking them off on who you think, else could be the playmakers. There's a lot of candidates, but until they get into a losable game, that's when you have to be the playmaker. It's nice in these games. It's fun, but that's when we are going to know. Now, before we go any further, and we do get and talk about the schedule when we get to some of your feedback, I want to remind people that Sharpening the Edge is a podcast that is brand new. It debuted on Friday. It's coming your way again this Friday, and we will make some selections for the weekend. We will talk about the games. We pick parlays. We have props. We pick our three favorite games. We always pick Michigan, Michigan State, and the Lions. And so all of that will be happening 4 or 5 o'clock this Friday. Don't miss that. Now, in terms of the feedback and what we have so far, Stephen talking about a 10-sack game. Why not? Michigan had 7. Harbaugh was saying we'll see if he gets it officially changed to 8. He wanted it to be 8. I think he was talking about the DJ Turner play when they hit the quarterback and the ball popped up in the air. That should have been a sack. I don't know about the technicalities there. Pass breakup. That wasn't a pass breakup. A forced fumble. I don't know. I'd have to look to see if Michigan got a forced fumble on that. Can you get a forced fumble and a sack? Yeah, I think you can. So I know Harbaugh was pleading for that. I'm not sure that he's going to get that adjustment in the stats for that sack. He wanted one. And when you play a team against Hawaii, you can almost throw any number out there, and I think it's going to be achievable. Do I think double-digit sacks against the Rainbows is achievable? Absolutely. Do I think Michigan could have, 700 yards of offense if they wanted it? Do I think Michigan could score 100 points Saturday if they wanted to? That Vandy put up a 50-piece on him or something, right? I think Michigan could probably score 100. I don't know, 100? Michigan could score 75 points if they wanted to on Saturday. So, the score, it's just a matter of when Harbaugh wants to call the dogs off, whether he wants to, get to 60 or 70 or whatever he wants to do. Whatever, how that works. Let's see. SNBI is on here. He's talking about smashing the like button. I like that. Yeah, smash that like button. If you listen on the podcast, leave a review, rate. Those things help. They're free to do, and yet I get our publisher, Josh Henschke, saying, hey, people are rating the podcast. It's showing up more on the top of the lines across when people type in, I want to listen or watch Michigan football. It ends up going up the list by you rating and reviewing, writing, reviews, all of that. And if you on the review, you can be honest. You're like, you know what? Fithian used to be better looking, but now he's more stately. It's more of a whatever you think. I don't know if you want to go into my looks. Antoine asking a question. He said he thought it was just going to be about the secondary, but I don't know. Maybe emoji with I don't know what that emoji is. The whole defense is going to be fire. Yeah, they could be, Antoine. And you're like me, Antoine. There's a lot to be excited about, but you're able to put it in context. You're not going way overboard. An example of going way overboard would be like, I like the rep. The first play that Yabi Anoma came in, he went off the left edge, went by the right tackle like he wasn't even there, the running back like he wasn't even there, took the quarterback, threw him on the ground, sack. Great play, great rep. Now, you could say that people say, well, it's Colorado State. Oh, yeah, it was. It was Colorado State. It was a nice play. It was a nice rep. It was a good start for Anoma. Does that mean that you're going to put Anoma in a mock draft as a first round, edge rusher? No, it doesn't mean that. Does it mean he's going to be an All-American or All Big Ten? Is it? No. Now, does it mean that if you're Mike Elson, defensive line coach, or you're Jim Harbaugh, you are anybody involved with the Michigan defense, like their coordinator Jesse Minter, that you'd say, hey, we want to get him more reps. We want to get him on the field. That's very fair. We're not yet putting him in the first round of the NFL draft next year. I mean, that's what I'm talking about when it comes to the defense. But there's nice promise there. There's nothing wrong saying, Noma, there's some promise there. Hell, the guy was sitting there right next to Micah Parsons in the high school rankings when he was coming out for Rivals. Micah Parsons might be the best defender in all of football. Yeah, no, I would go with Donald still. Parsons is up there, top 5. And here's Anoma. What are you saying? Well, you just said not put Anoma in the first round, but you're comparing him to Micah Parsons. There wasn't really a comparison there. They were right next to each other in the rankings. That was the point. So, again, there were some people telling me that I'm the one accusing me of going too far on Michigan, getting too hyped up. Remember, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting excited about watching Michigan football. I don't think anybody else should apologize for that. If I come out on Saturday night and I'm like, oh, yeah, Anoma, he followed up his 1 sack performance. He ended up with 3 sacks. This kid really can come off the edge. He fires off the edge. Look at the reps that he had. He looks like a playmaker. I understand it's Hawaii. I understand that week 1 was Colorado State. But can I be enthusiastic about what I see, or do I just need to, whatever happens, just talk in a really low tone? Yes, Michigan won the game 63-3, but it was against Hawaii, so we will take nothing away from the game until Michigan plays a team on the road or that's in the top 25. So all of these Michigan fans, slappies, can just sit back down and stop getting so excited about their team. A lot of people that droning on and on about that. I just expect that there's a lot of that out there, because it is fair to criticize Michigan's non-conference slate. It is fair to look at these home games and say, what do we know about Michigan? Absolutely fair. But when I know how it works, and you do too. The constant smack, smack, smack. Don't get so excited. Okay, you don't have to tell me, how excited I should be. You don't have to tell me there's no speed limit on the highway to enthusiasm. You don't have to tell me to tap the brakes. If I want to get on the highway of enthusiasm and I want to take my right foot and I want to jam it down to the floor and I want to drive it as fast as I can, I will. Now, I normally don't do that. I will get on the highway to enthusiasm, and I'll go a little bit over the enthusiasm speed limit, because that's my nature. Some people want to drive 10 miles below the enthusiasm, and, that's the way they roll. That's fine. If it's working for you, it works. Okay, let's get to some more feedback. Gregory, we have to score in the red zone. We're going to have trouble beating good teams. Cade was 50% and doesn't read sometimes. Doesn't get the proper read. Yeah, saying that, Harbaugh, heading into the season, when he talked about judging his quarterbacks, he was mentioning a couple different parts that he was going to be evaluating. One of those parts for the quarterback was red zone efficiency. And the only time McNamara got the ball into the end zone is when Michigan had that drive that I think they ran 8 straight times. Now, yeah, McNamara had to call the play and snap the ball and hand it off, and he gets credit for that. But the other ones, he doesn't. They didn't get in. They had to kick field goals. So saying that Michigan needs to do a better job in the red zone, scoring touchdowns, I would agree with that, Greg. I think that is something to look for. And, it goes back to you get a really easy team and you say, it matters when you're playing in the big games. Well, you might as well just do it all now. It was like the preparation that Michigan didn't have any pre-snap penalties, that, they didn't have with 2 new coordinators, their operation from the sideline where, you're getting the play in, especially on offense when they had, I guess, I'm not 100% sure. I haven't quite figured out who's calling all the plays. I think it's Matt Weiss, but they keep talking about it being collaborative. So I don't know if Weiss is like, hey, how about this play? And then and Moore's like, no, you go ahead and call whatever they're doing. Their operation was flawless. We didn't have the, seeing guys burn timeouts. They couldn't get the play in. All of that went well. They had 1 lousy penalty. That was it. So, yeah, if they had a bunch of penalties, say, it was the opener, those things, they got something to clean up. They were clean. They played a real clean game. Sideline operation was good. So you do look to something, Greg, and you're on top of it. You're looking for better red zone efficiency. I'm right there with you. Let's see some more feedback. We'll get to the schedule coming up here in a second. And Jaydn Davis. SNBI. Michigan looked like they could be offensively as good as Ohio State with JJ behind center. Well, look, talking about the defense and being very encouraged about them is really good if you're a Michigan fan, because I don't have any worries about the offense. Michigan's offense is loaded. It doesn't matter who they've played, what they've done. I have seen it. I know what the offensive line brings to the table. I know what the wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends bring. Who else are we talking about? Oh, yeah, the quarterbacks. Yeah, with JJ, if, McCarthy, we've only seen, we're ready to see this much. And even this week, you're still not going to see the full on McCarthy, because he's going to have to share some time with Cade. But as we said yesterday, both quarterbacks indicating that looks like it's a thing of the past after this Saturday. You're just going to get one quarterback. Hopefully that is true, what Harbaugh had to say. That would be very encouraging. But the point about the offense is that, they're rolling. You can say, I would like to get Andrell Anthony more involved. Why didn't they target Ronnie Bell more? I mean, these are going to be things when you have the amount of pass catchers and playmakers and running backs, you're going to say, why not get this guy more carries? Why not get that guy? Why not get him more involved? Yeah, I think that there's some truth to that. Some of this stuff they are holding back. They don't like putting formations on film that Michigan State could watch and say, hey, this is that one where they put Henning in the backfield and, they split one of the backs out and, then they run them. They run Donovan Edwards, out of the slot. This is that formation. So, they don't want to do anything, some of those kind of things. But, yeah. Can Michigan be as good as anybody in the country on offense? That answer, I think, is yes. Adrian's guy is Rod Moore. Moore is an underrated player. Moore did not come in with great fanfare last year. Moore was not in for spring last year. And then Rod Moore, when you talk about getting out there and having an impact as a true freshman, he had it. He was exceptional. I don't know. They may have. But Rod Moore and that victory at Penn State last year, 21-17, when it was just 7-6 at the half. And yeah, Michigan got the 47-yard touchdown from Eric All, but they needed a 4 and out with Penn State. Remember, they stripped the ball. They needed a 4 and out late in that game, and Rod Moore against Jahan Dotson, the Washington Commanders rookie wide receiver. And he made the play. Did he make third down and fourth down, or was just fourth? I'd have to go back and look. He was in the mix for sure on fourth down. He might have been in the mix on third down. It's a good player to pick, Rod Moore. Good player, unheralded, kind of underrated star, playmaker, the one we're talking about. I could see that. With all the different playmakers Michigan had and everything else, Rod Moore making a big play. They may not have been in the winner's circle at the end if it wasn't for old number 19 for the Maize and Blue. The punter saying the depth at the D-line is an encouragement in one sense because, as Elston mentioned, you can go late into the game without a production drop-off. Also, the production is more resistant to injury. Having depth where you can rotate on the defensive line is worth its weight in gold. You start talking about any big-time team, you'll talk about guys that are rotating in on the defensive line. And, yeah, we knew about Mozzie Smith, and people were encouraged about Chris Jenkins, and both of those two. We know Smith is a star. Jenkins looks like a star. Rayshawn Benny. I don't have every snap in front of me that he played but he looked good. It's like, hey, what's 26? The big wow, that's Rayshawn Benny. He's out there. He's moving pretty good for a guy his size. And oh yeah, Mason Graham, the true freshman. It looks like a little bulldozer in there. 4 guys. Very encouraging. I go back when Dallas was when they were one of the premier teams in the NFL, and the defense, they were rotating them in on the defensive line. That's one of them. A lot of cases. The Giants, when they won both times with Eli Manning over the Pats, they had something. They had defensive ends. They were lining them up. Michigan did a little bit of that. Kind of reminded me of the Giants, where they had Taylor Upshaw lining up as a nose guard, then dropping him back. This Jesse Minter, he had some stuff going on that he was flashing out there. But that's a good point on the D-line. Antoine with a prediction of a record-breaking year in terms of sacks and turnovers. Well, they should be able to make a lot of hay in these next 2 games. And then with Maryland, some turnovers. Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. Antoine, you got your prediction in. 55 sacks? I don't know. You're talking about for the season, or we're talking about I'll take the under on Saturday. They probably really could get to 100. There's no way they could score 100. Well, there's never been a team. I mean, like, maybe, back in the early 1900s, maybe we have 100-0 score. I'm not even sure if that's the case. I don't even remember a 90. Can I remember an 80? There've been plenty of 70s. Was it 77-0 at Michigan beat Rutgers just a few years ago? And I got my discount at the Steak House, 77%. I think so. So is that the high mark, 77? Yeah. I mean, that's not in the things that Jim Harbaugh's talking about trying to get done. Get a bill is not something that, they're necessarily looking to do. And Adrian, I think you're right. There would be some backlash, and Casey saying he might just start taking a knee if he's saying that he would quit if he was on the other side if they were down 80. He's not talking about taking knees. He's talking about quitting if you're on the other side. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, these are the kind of things when you're a 50-point favorite or whatever you're at. to, this is just where we're at this week. Michigan's preseason top 10, everyone's high on them. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm in on the hype too. Let's talk about the blowouts. And if you enjoy those, here we are talking about getting to 100. Do big time blowouts equal big time fun? I said last week, there's a few things, I'm older now, I'm 52 years old, but I tried to remember throughout my broadcasting career that I remember getting into being a broadcaster. And I said, there's a few things that I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget what it's like to be down in the stadium or watching the game, being a fan. And I used to get turned off when I would hear a columnist start talking about, we're just like, I had an issue with columnists that seemed like they just weren't really into the games. Like they're yawning, or Joe Falls was talking about he didn't like the accommodations in the press box. I didn't care. I said, I have to not try to act like these guys. Some of these guys that are in the best position in there will say things like, yeah, tonight I think me and the kids and wife, we're going to just go out on Saturday night. We're just not going to watch any football. Which I know you could do, but I was thinking, what? Not going to watch any football? I say all that because there was one thing that, when I was young, I always wanted, and when it came to Michigan, to win the game. People say, well, what do you want to happen? I want Michigan to score 50, and I don't want the other team to score any. That to me is a good Saturday. And then, this past Saturday, they were tracking towards the perfect Fithian outcome. 50-0, 51-0. And it didn't happen. But a good dominating performance. Now, this gets back to the schedule part. Do you get used to it? You get, it's going to be a big blowout this Saturday. The following Saturday, it's going to be a big blowout. This is not something that heading into the season you necessarily want. There's really nothing we can do about it. Harbaugh could have done something about it. This is what Harbaugh signed off on along with Ward Manuel. Let's get a bunch of home games and let's just schedule wins. Crowd won't care. They only care if we win at the end. Who cares what they think? Let's just schedule a bunch of dubs. And surprisingly, there's a lot of Michigan fans who don't care who the opponent is. They just want to win. They just love winning. They like that there's no chance of losing. It's like, woo! But that Michigan's going to win this game. And there's a 100% chance that they're going to win this game on Saturday. There's a 100% chance they're going to win a game against UConn. And people love it. I was brought up. I remember in 97, the whole challenge in the offseason, Lloyd Carr said, this is going to be climbing the mountain. He got some axe picks out. And who was the writer that wrote Into Thin Air about, going to the summit of Mount Everest and the pickaxes. It was a great book. And, that's what Lloyd used, get your pickaxes out to climb up to the summit, because Colorado was the number one team in the country and Michigan had to open up against that. They were playing Notre Dame, and Michigan fans were like, we're playing the toughest schedule in the country. Look at all the old playing. You guys are all frauds. I remember Wojo, back when he was an entertaining columnist. No, I'm just kidding. He still is. He would always write about how Wisconsin annually was a bunch of frauds because they didn't play anyone. And then when they did, everybody would, you'd say, that's the Wisconsin. They're a bunch of frauds. Michigan, you just have to accept that this year you're going to be called a fraud. People are going to say you don't know anything about you because you really don't. And you just have to roll with it. And it's going to be the same thing next year. If this was just a one-off, you could say it's just a one-off. Now you could say it was a pattern. This is the way they plan to do it. Now, if you're a season ticket holder and you don't just like going down to games that are blowouts, you like it more interesting, I completely understand that. If you're a fan that likes to play tough opponents, I understand that too. But in this case, since you can't do anything about it, I think you just enjoy it while you can and understanding like, hey, Michigan's got an easy schedule. You don't have to play the yeah, but game. The yeah, but game is like, but Alabama. But, and even if it's factual, don't play the yeah, but game. Just play this is what it is. And we're going to find out when they play on the road. That'll be a test for them. We'll find out when they have to play some rivalry games. That's all you can do. Is Michigan going to be 11-0? And people are saying, well, I don't know. They hadn't played anybody. Fine. I think you just accept it. Each year takes on a different type of, the story, how you go through the whole thing. This is part of it. That Michigan is, and it's enabled them to have this experiment at quarterback. It's enabled them to play 100 guys on both sides of the ball, empty the benches. So it's, I said I didn't like the students not showing up for the game and then, leaving at halftime because it was hot. I mean, go party when you have, there's downsides to it. These are some of the downsides, but they'll have some tasks. And I can remember when the Red Wings were really good. I used to say, I want to see them play the Avalanche. I want to see them play the Stars. I want to see them play all of the top seeds. I don't want to see any breaks along the way because they're good enough. I want to take the toughest road, slam your fist down. And then there would always be the argument. People like, who cares? You want the easiest path. Champagne tastes the same when you win it all. Nobody's asking, after you might enjoy it while you're there, act like, hey, we can beat anybody. But in the end, all that matters is the championship. And I think that's the biggest part of this when you're starting to talk about a soft schedule and Michigan doesn't play anybody and there might be frauds and all these things. Like, yeah, all of that stuff might be true. But it's like these basketball when you get into the tournament. Sure, would you like to play if you're the 1 seed? Would you like to have to go through the 2, 3, and 4? And you say, we played everybody. But just ask yourself when you go through, how often do you remember when teams get a super break? Or 2. And they make it to the Final Four. Are they going back saying, well, you caught a break there? It's the same thing in the NBA. You win the championship. Now, people try to downgrade you all the time. Like, oh, you got lucky because Shaq got hurt, or you got lucky because, Magic pulled his hamstring. That was a popular one back for the bad boys. The Shaq was a popular one for the going to work. It's like, injuries happen. But breaks along the way, and it's just like the non-conference. And I'll just have gone on about it way too much. But if Michigan goes 11-0, they go down to Ohio State, and they win the Big Ten championship for 2 years in a row, are you going to be sitting there on that Saturday down in Indianapolis saying, well, Michigan played a real easy non-conference? Like, no, nobody's going to talk about that at all. Nobody. So it doesn't matter. In the end, if you take care of your business, it doesn't downgrade you at all. I guess you could. And this is where you start getting into, it's a little bit too early for this. But what if Michigan goes 11-0 and then their one loss is to a number 1 or number 2 Ohio State team? Well, then that's when you put the resumes up there. And that's when people are going to look at Michigan and be like, whoa, Michigan didn't play anyone. So it could come back to haunt them. But they'll have their opportunity if they're in that position to do it themselves. So, and I know it's a tough one if you get there and people say, but you're not going to really have one of these, so you're just going to have to win all the games. That's what it means. All right. Did I make every point that I wanted to make there? The question that's going to get asked every week, are you battle tested? Yeah. Until you're battle tested, until you're road tested, there's really nothing you can say. You say, well, you're kind of waiting on that particular part of the schedule to play out as well. All right, Michigan this Saturday night, they are bringing Jaydn Davis in. You may have heard of this quarterback out of Providence Day in Charlotte, North Carolina. He is a 5-star QB. He's ranked in the top 5 overall in rivals at any position next year. I mean, this guy is as highly rated as any quarterback that Michigan has ever gone after. And they look like they got a really good chance. He's saying all the right things. They're in a really good position for him. The thing about this, it was always going to be, is that Michigan's having success on the field, but since the name, image, and likeness has been introduced, and Michigan has been playing it like we're going after a certain amount of kid, and we're transformative. We're not really getting down in the weeds with every other team, whether or not it's hurt them, whatever their plan is. I'd heard some things. There was a lot of talk this summer about it, and then some people got in there and said, "Oh, Michigan's going to drop this gigantic name, image, and likeness bag in the fall on everyone, and it's going to turn heads, and Michigan's going to be cleaning up in the recruiting." Well, it's technically not fall yet, so I don't know. We're still waiting on that, but an indication Michigan will answer all of its questions about name, image, and likeness if they can get a guy like Jaydn Davis, whether he's a one-off or not. Here he is wearing a Michigan towel while he's throwing the ball, looking pretty good. But that's going to be the question. The name, image, and likeness in Michigan paying is going to be a question until they are able to, land some 5 stars. And then you can say, hey, the plan is working. Until then, I understand. And I think people should be skeptical. Sure, you can, trust the people behind the scenes, and you can do whatever you want to do. If you just want to be a straight up, a Michigan man, be like anything Michigan does, they're dotting their I's and crossing the T's. I'm all about it. They'll get it done. That's fine. I think I think you're completely justified in being skeptical about how they've played the name, image, and likeness. I am skeptical, and then I've even wondered if they could take and sacrifice, not something that people like to hear, sacrifice an entire recruiting class and just come in, I don't know, in the top 30, and then, get back to the drawing table and say, hey, we really need to, get up with everybody else and, forget about, the other things that we said. The proof is in, the amount of players that we're bringing in, and it's different. If they fall behind, does it mean they can get back in there? I know there could be an argument there, but this particular player is a great test to see if all of that kind of hand wringing is necessary, and if Michigan being criticized for the name, image, and likeness is really on, or if it's going to continue, or if they're going to be able to answer that question. That could come as soon as Saturday night. Now, Davis has not indicated that he's making any kind of commitment. In fact, paring down the schools that he's interested in, it's been a month or so since I read, those comments. I think it might have been from his parents' camp, or just Davis's camp overall, that he was going to go through the season. I haven't seen that a timetable has been moved up and everything, but it's just like when the barbecue was going on, there were a lot of Michigan fans like, "Ooh, this would be great, if they could get Jaydn Davis," because he was coming in, and there was some thought that maybe they could woo him there, and then that didn't happen. And now that he's coming in for this visit on Saturday night, naturally there's going to be a lot of talk like, hey, can they get a commitment from Jaydn Davis? Can Michigan beat Hawaii by 100? And can they get a Jaydn Davis commitment? You want to talk about a perfect weekend? All right. 100's too much, too rich for your taste. Can Michigan get a 73-0 win and a Jaydn Davis commitment? Is that a perfect weekend for the Wolverines? I think so. Before I have some breaking news, and it comes from the basketball team. That's the breaking sounder. I'm going to get some of the feedback up here, and then we will go to it. Let's see. Eddie's in here, and people are talking about what he was saying. All right, let's just see. Yeah, Jacob's got a message. He says, I got a group of people going to the game Saturday night. We are in row 11, right behind the end zone. You guys will see us. We're going to be dressed in all Ohio State jerseys. Go Bucks. Well, I don't know. Jacob, nobody cares. You know, why would we care about you going to a Michigan game? We don't. Eddie has said it's a done deal. Jaydn is signing for Michigan. All right. I like your optimism, Eddie. I don't know what kind of insight you have on the Davis commitment, but here it says from Eddie that it's a done deal, that Michigan's getting him. Yard Dad says there's more reasons to let JJ throw the ball 35 times. Kids don't want to hand it off all game. Now, that's a very interesting message, YD. Because there has been a little bit of this talk in the offseason about, if you weren't talking about name, image, and likeness and you thought Michigan would be all right and you just threw it over here for a minute, you'd say, yeah, this whole thing with, Michigan doing the ground and pound like they did last year, being this throwback team, how is that going to attract top wide receivers? And how's that going to attract a top quarterback? I don't want to just turn around and hand the ball off all game long. So could Jim Harbaugh, knowing that he can name the score, and he's got J.J. McCarthy out there and Cade McNamara who want to put their best feet forward so they can win the starting job. Does Harbaugh call more pass plays to show Jaydn Davis that Michigan can air it out? I think there's a possibility that why not? Like, I mean, if this was a game plan, like, we can't let any of that kind of stuff, this outside noise, we got to stay focused. I mean, this is the kind of slippage that I think you get. Yeah. I think they might throw it a little bit more to show Jaydn Davis that he can throw the football when he comes in. So there you go. Yeah, I haven't seen, people talking about the Queen of England here. I don't know. I don't know about any of that. What I do know is that the Michigan men's basketball schedule is out. And I just want to give you a quick one over here. Going through the schedule that Michigan has, I quickly jotted down the teams that they are only playing once, and that is they have to go to Iowa once, to Rutgers, and to Illinois. No return visits from Iowa, Rutgers, or Illinois. Meanwhile, they play Purdue, Ohio State, and Nebraska just once, and that is at Chrysler. They play all the other teams twice. So those are the 6 teams that they just play once. This November 11th game is going to be down at the Little Caesars Arena against Eastern. That's a game that I am at least right now trying to target to see if I can go to. And the rest of these, here's a slow down Virginia team. There's Kentucky. That's going to be played in London. That's weird. But there's some big names. Normally, you say, Michigan's going to play some teams that, you've never heard of. And there's one, Lipscomb. I wasn't 100%. If you'd have said, give me 4 teams and that would have been one of them, pick the one that doesn't play college basketball. I don't know. I don't think I would have. I didn't know that Lipscomb had a team. There's always one. I have heard of this team, North Carolina. There you go. Around Christmas. That's nice. I like Michigan's playing Central and they're playing Eastern. These are MAC teams. These are games you should win. But, those guys, it brings a little extra punch. I wish they would play U of D, Eastern, Western, Central. I like that. There it is. New Year's Day. I'll be busy on New Year's Day, but hey, Maryland. A couple more here. There's the Michigan State game. What about Wisconsin? You might say, Juwan Howard and Wisconsin. Michigan plays Whiskey twice this year. Let's just go ahead and look for some of those games. Only Ohio State ones. Don't really care for that one. Here you go. Wednesday, February the 14th at Wisconsin. February the 14th is Valentine's Day. So you've got Michigan, Wisconsin on Valentine's Day. That's a good sense of humor there for the Big Ten scheduling office. Gard and Howard. Will they shake hands? Will there be any bad blood? Will people talk about it an awful lot where Michigan fans will say, there's nothing to talk about? Yes, all of that. I'll circle that game. Valentine's Day, Madison, Howard, Gard. Let's go. Oh, they're just playing basketball. That is it. Okay, we want to remind everyone out there that if you are not doing so right now, you should join up to the Maize and Blue Review. Find out what the Wolverines' next move is. Join us today. Go to michigan.rivals.com. That'll do it for today's show. Tomorrow we'll be going after it. It'll be a football Friday. I'll be preparing for that show now until 1 o'clock tomorrow. Until then, thanks for watching, and everybody have a great rest of their Thursday.